Hey, everyone. Welcome to this week's episode of the Tim and Jim Show. And we're going to be talking today about how to use electronic payments to grow your business. Because some of the things we like to do on the show is bring on experts in the different fields of business and marketing to help you grow your business or get started with your business. And excited to be here. I know we weren't here last week. I was in Lima, Ohio at one of the I don't even know if it's a best kept secret, but Social Media Week Lima just had its 10th anniversary. It's an amazing conference. Jessica Phillips and Now Marketing Group holds, and makes me think I need to do something like that here in Atlanta with some of my Atlanta friends. But really excited today to have Bailey Cooper join us. And for those of you wondering where Tim is, well, we've been talking. Looks like Tim will be back on the 19th of July. So excited to get Tim back on the show. He's been busy with some stuff, but and next, well, I guess August, right? We're still in June. Will be the 5-year anniversary of this show. So really excited to see. We've got a potential couple high profile guests in store, but we're not going to let you know yet because that's kind of how we roll. But I want to get into this with Bailey, who I've gotten to know personally from some in-person events. I think, and we also met each other. We did some of that online meeting stuff during that thing, which will now remain nameless in my book. But Bailey, great to have you here. And why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself? Because I think you've got a really neat and unique background.
Sure. Well, I appreciate that. First of all, thanks for having me here in general. You were actually on my podcast some maybe a month, maybe a little over a month ago, and I appreciate you kind of bringing me on your platform to give the information that I can to the best of my ability. My background, I've been in the electronic payment space for 6 years and some change, going on 7 years. And it's been a good time. It's been quite a ride because when you're working with electronic payments, you really learn the ins and outs of different industries, and kind of baptizes you by fire to learn kind of the scale and the speed that some businesses need to grow to be really, really sustainable. And I think that's really what you learn at a high level. And then you kind of get pretty intricate with some of the stuff that you actually learn about electronic payments. But basically, when I started out as door-to-door sales. So I was outside sales. I spent a lot of time knocking on doors, and probably for about the first 6 months, 8 months of my career, that was mostly what I was doing. And then I added some of that networking piece. So BNI Master Networks, Chamber of Commerce, business associations, just a mixed bag over a couple of years to, really kind of grow and diversify my network and where I was getting referrals from and being able to bring value to some of the people that we were meeting. And things really kind of, renegotiated themselves for us during the pandemic. Because what we were experiencing before is that, 99% of the people that I had ever done business with, I had shaken their hand first. And then during the pandemic, I was doing business pretty much exclusively with people that I had never met. And so when you're virtually networking during the pandemic, you get about, a couple hundred opportunities a day to really meet people, right? And none of those are great first steps toward a relationship. And this podcast, and the reason you're seeing me behind a mic and headphones and a nice camera and all of those things, is because we started a podcast as well that features entrepreneurs. And really, the goal is to find out what skills those entrepreneurs possess and try to bottle them up and teach them to an audience of people that want to be business owners. And so, through both of those experiences, kind of digging into the electronic payments, as well as digging into really what makes entrepreneurs tick and what skills they utilize to make them successful, has taught me a tremendous amount about the small business world. And I'm really just kind of here to be a resource to most people, as well as keep informing people about electronic payments to the best I can, because it's one of those industries that changes really, really rapidly. There's always something new going on. There's always a different piece of technology. There's different changes in regulation via Visa, MasterCard, all of those things about, fees that you can charge a customer and all different types of things. It just changes really quickly. And it's kind of our job to stay on top of that game and make sure that our merchants are informed to the best of our ability. So.
Yeah, and I think that's it's fascinating. And first of all, too, I mean, I really enjoyed being on your podcast. I think it was maybe one of the first. Maybe it's been a couple others, but it was an in-person. I was sitting on the other side of that table from Bailey, and we were having a conversation, and so it's pretty cool to be in the same room. It's not something that you're always able to do, and, I wanted to say, shout out to a few of our, viewers today. Chris Stone, my good friend, from Cast Ahead, and also my host on Dealcasters. James Hicks, who's, Dr. Hicks is an amazing individual as well. He's not really a doctor. We call him Dr. Hicks, a tech genius, and has a couple of great shows as well. And then it's great to see Linda, Ray, and Trevor. They've done a lot, especially during the pandemic. They really were helping people out with the whole small business loan stuff that people, the PPP and some the EIDL did a great job, and they've been doing some transitioning. And she says she's excited to hear this episode today. Pro ePay have experience of how people dispute the fee when a credit card is used, and the credit card companies are consumer centric despite documentation. And so I've noticed a couple things, and I'm sure, this is why we have you here today, Bailey.
Mhm.
'Cause like some of my friends like to say, for me, this is free consulting from an expert. Um, One of the things that, like when you're first starting your small business is, what do we start with, right? It's like some people start with Square, or, we think about starting with our bank, but then they want to charge us all these fees, and we're like, wow, you're charging me more in fees than the on top of the fee for each transaction. So can you kind of maybe give us like an overview of like how does somebody maybe pick which way to go? I mean, because I think Square is, or Stripe are good places to start, but you guys kinda offer another level that people don't realize, and I'd like you to talk about that as well.
So that's really the way that we describe Square, Stripe, QuickBooks, PayPal, things like that. Are they're good introductory products for business. And the reason that we say that is because if you need to take credit cards tomorrow, right, and you don't have a solution for that, they're easy to set up. They're very simple pieces of technology. But that's really what they are, is pieces of technology, right? So what you get with those companies, and I'll explain a little bit about the pricing as well, because I think I have a way to um, explain this in a way that makes sense to people. But basically, what you get with Square, right, is you get a solid piece of technology that comes out of the box, right? And the low light of that is that you really don't have a relationship with anyone, right? And the way that I kind of describe that as well is like, if you do insurance through your insurance that you got online, right? You really don't have an insurance agent, someone that you have a relationship with that you can call and ask questions XYZ, right? um, and really having that person that you can lean on to answer your questions whenever you need those questions answered is super valuable, right? So having a real insurance agent and a relationship with someone that isn't just going to press the claim button every time you make a call is a big thing. So that relationship doesn't really exist with Square or QuickBooks or anything like that. You're not going to have a representative for your account or someone that you can reach out to, and it kind of it creates a barrier in that customer service experience. The technology is solid. I will say that it's very adaptable in the market as long as you're actually getting what you need. You don't need to buy a $500 piece of handheld equipment if you're going to be sending invoices and things like that. So as long as you actually get what you need, the solution that you can implement in your business, the technology is solid. It's backed by billions of dollars, mostly built in Silicon Valley by very, very high level developers that built half the apps that you use on your phone today. The price is where we see the biggest discrepancy there, right? Advantage to Stripe and Square, because if you go to your bank, if you go to a company like mine, if you go to a local credit card processing company, you're almost always going to pay a monthly fee. Square, PayPal, Stripe, a lot of those things they don't have a monthly fee, which is a wonderful place to start. If you know that you're sparingly going to take credit cards once every few weeks, once every couple of months for large transactions, not having that monthly fee matters, right? But if you're constantly running credit cards, the monthly fee almost becomes something that you throw out the window, right? The rate is really where we dig into the difference in price. Every card that Visa, MasterCard, Amex, Discover issue to us, the consumers, right? Nothing credit card processing related. The cards that are in Jim's wallet, the cards that are in my wallet, the cards that are in everybody's listening's wallet. Every one of those has a different rate assessed to it. And it's based on a lot of things. It's based on interpreted risk. It's based on credit versus debit. It's based on rewards and cash back. They build a profile that basically says, "Oh, we need to charge this much to the merchant for this transaction based on this card usage," because those card issuing brands have some risk when it comes to lending you money that you may never pay back, right? What Square does is charges you, anything that's like you see that 2.9% or 2.7% or 3.4% and 30 cents. They're charging you like you're taking the most expensive card all the time. So they're charging you like you're taking an American Express with corporate rewards and Sky Miles and hotel points and cash back and all of those things, where we have debit cards are the only regulated card in our industry.
Hmm.
0.0005%. That's what it costs to take a debit card. So you
Wow.
can imagine when you take a debit card and then Stripe charges you 2.9%, they're profiting almost that entire 2.9%, right? And that's where we get into, when is it a good opportunity to move away from that pricing structure? Well, if you're getting to the point where you're running, five figures of credit card volume every month on multiple transactions very, very consistently, what we like to see internally is somewhere between a half and a full percent of savings between that, somewhere between 2.9 and 3.4%. We want to be in those low twos. We want to be in the high ones. And what drives that, right? You can imagine what type of businesses take a large percentage of credit cards, right? Your hot dog stand is going to take mostly credit cards. Your snow cone place, your ice cream parlor like Brewster's. Now, if you're at IKEA and the average ticket is $500+ because you're buying furniture, mostly everyone is going to put that on a credit card. So think about the types of cards you take really based on your average transaction size, and that's a big driver of it. But what we see is that there are a ton of industries, that have that $200 or less average ticket,
Hmm.
that are taking 50% or more debit cards, but they're paying like they take 100% corporate issued American Express. And so that's
Wow.
where we see is the biggest discrepancy between products like that and products like a local merchant services company can provide, is that pricing structure is just not comparing apples to apples for the most part. It's a very, very different pricing structure. It's good for you to just be able to pay 3% and get it over with and done when you're early on in your business. But as your volume increases and as the um, predictability of your business increases, sometimes those products, it's more financial gain to move away from those products.
Wow. Yeah, that's a great point. And and I don't think we always think about that. Like I've noticed too that like even with Square, they'll allow people to like pay you ACH and the quote unquote fee is not as high, but people aren't always comfortable, which is kind of funny, right? Because they're given the credit card info about providing their routing number and their checking account number into a system because there have been a lot of hacks. But let's talk about something else because you hit on something that I think is important. It's kind of how we got to meet, and that's about building relationships. And I think that's so important. It doesn't matter if you're in a closed group, open group networking. I think the basic bottom line. It's all about building relationships, and to me, that is important. Like working with a small, like a smaller bank, right? Like I'm with Ameris Bank, and I started working with Ameris Bank because I had a relationship with my banker. I learned this, in fact, from my friend here in the audience, Brian Kennedy. Because we were in a BNI group together, and it's about building that know, like, and trust. And and Catherine, great to see you. It's all about relationships, but it's like it's nice to know that with your company, if I'm using your product or service, I could call you and you're going to provide me a solution. I don't get that with Square or with Stripe, right? It's like I'm calling a 1-800 number, and if I even get to do that, right? It's like I might have to do everything through email and through chat. And I've run into a situation before uh, as well, and maybe you can kind of explain. And I think this is kind of going to something Linda was talking about. Let's say you provide a service to a client, you provide it satisfactorily. Everything was done through the credit card sort of system, but then they do what we call a chargeback. And then all of a sudden, you're seeing this huge hit of all this money coming out of your account. And now you got to prove that you actually provided the service. Um, what can we do about that? Is that something that you guys are able to help people kind of protect themselves up front with? That I definitely don't see that with Square.
Up front, yes is the short answer to your question. The long answer to your question is that chargebacks a lot of time are something that you can't protect against, right?
Mhm.
There's something that you can't predict. It's going to happen in your business. If you do business long enough, you're going to get a chargeback, right? And really, there's three ways to fight a chargeback. There's before the chargeback ever happens, there's when the chargeback happens, and then after the chargeback happens, right? So I'll explain it three different ways. So if you think about like a forest fire and you live in the hills in California, you don't want to uh, email the fire department and tell them that there's a fire, right? You want to get somebody on the phone and en route to you as fast as possible. That's kind of the way that we view chargebacks. Beforehand, compliance is a big thing, right? You need to make sure that you're taking credit cards and debit cards in a way that is compliant for your business, that you're not holding or retaining information, that you're not writing down credit card numbers on a piece of paper and running them later, because that is a thing of the past. You should have um, a diverse solution that allows you to input payments in a way that you don't hold any liability for any of that information that you possess, right? While the chargeback is happening is that next phase of how to fight a chargeback. The biggest reason that we see businesses lose chargebacks is because they don't respond, right?
Mm.
What happens when you get a chargeback is that the company that's handling your chargeback sends you a letter in the mail. That is the first step, is a letter in the mail. Sometimes you get a phone call. More often than not, you do not get a phone call. The reason is people actually realize that it happens is most people see the money come out of their bank account. But there are a ton of people that don't check their bank account every day, especially their business bank account. So what happens is from the second that chargeback happens, you have a 10-day window and the timer starts immediately. You have
Mm.
10 days to gather to basically see why the charge was disputed, put together a packet of information that they're requesting that proves you rendered the product or service in the way that you said that you would render it, and then you received payment in exchange for those services. And then you have to send it in and get them to see that, hey, here is the information that I'm sending you in response to my chargeback, to allow them to make an educated decision about whether the funds should go back to the cardholder or should they go back to the business. What we see more than anything is that people go outside of that 10-day window before they actually realize that a chargeback has happened, especially people that don't do extremely large tickets. If you get a chargeback for $6,000 or $8,000, then you're going to realize that that came out of your bank account. But if you get a charge for $600 and you're doing a couple $1,000s a day in volume, you may not see that until after it's too late, even though you've already bared the cost of rendering that service. Which is difficult. Not to mention, every time you get a chargeback, usually your processor is charging you somewhere between $20 and $40, right? And you don't really get help from a lot of those people, right? You're not going to get help from Stripe. You're not going to get help from PayPal. You're not going to get help from Square. It's kind of on you. That process is very automated. They do the kind of the bare minimum to tell you the way to fight the chargeback, and they hope that at least hit a Google search or look in a forum to figure out what it is, the next steps that you should do. The good thing about a local merchant services company, like my company, like some other companies as well, because it's not just all me. We're not the most revolutionary thing in our industry, but we are redundant. right? So we have a big customer service team that is in house. We have an outsourced customer service team. We always have someone that you can reach us, which means when I go out with my family on the weekends, I have a bunch of resources for me to make sure that my clients are taken care of without me having to step away from my family and do all of those things, right? And so what you get is with a local merchant services company, they have two things that are advantageous. Every morning when we get to our office, we run what's called a chargeback report. We see any chargebacks that may have happened from the day before. We have something like five to 6,000 merchants in our book of business. There's pretty much a chargeback for someone every day, every other day, something like that. Well, you'll immediately get a call from us. And then another thing that we have that most people don't have is what's called a chargeback reason code. You're not shown this as the merchant. You don't get this information from, as the actual business, but we get it as the processor. And so what was that reason that the chargeback was disputed? Were the goods damaged when upon receipt? Uh, were they never sent or received? Was the work incomplete or not finished? Was it after a deadline? Did someone install something incorrectly? Whatever that reason may be, that they weren't fully happy with the service that you provided, we'll be able to see that. And it boils down to about 7 or 8 different codes that we get, that basically classify what those chargebacks are built by. Well, that gives us a pretty competitive position, right? Because now we can call our merchant and say, hey, Mr. Merchant, here's a chargeback. Here's the amount. Here's who the customer is. Here's the reason that they are saying that they're disputing this charge. And here's the information and documentation that you need to provide and how to provide it in order to give yourself the best chance of winning this chargeback. To give you a realistic example, right? To set a realistic example, I can't guarantee that we're going to help you win your chargeback. We're going to do everything that we can to get you to win your chargeback. But in a couple of situations specifically, like I have a client that does business all over the Southeast, right?
Mhm.
They're based here locally, but they do business literally all the way from the edge of Mississippi up to North Carolina down to the tip of Florida. Well, people don't and what they do is they fix like tractor trailers on the side of the highway that are broken down, get them to their next stop so they can get a more permanent solution, right?
Right.
Well, those drivers pay with a card issued with them for their company. People don't always know who they're doing business with. They think it's just some random charge. They charge it back, right? Well, this specific client was getting about 3% chargebacks, one in every 33 transactions they were getting a chargeback. They were losing about 8 out of 10 of them. Right.
Wow.
Now, this client is doing tremendous, massive, massive, massive volume, right? And over a very, very large scale. What we did was we changed the way that they were actually taking the payment so that it provided more information to the people that were submitting the payment. And then on the back end, we started to hold their hand through that chargeback process so that we could say, here's the way that we consistently need to respond to these chargebacks, right? And so we created a process for them where they knew how to go and grab that information and make sure that they're documenting the things that they need to document up front in order to make sure that they have the ability to back it up later. I don't think they lose. I haven't seen the last time that they've lost a chargeback with us just because we gave them that process. So it isn't anything that we're doing over the moon about the chargeback or dispute side of things. But building that process when you know your business is at risk for those sort of things is very, very important. And being left in the dark and the process taking too much time are really the issues that we see in our industry about chargebacks. Because if you don't have somebody calling you the day that you get a chargeback, that puts you at risk. It's at risk because if it happens on a Friday, right, and nobody calls you on Friday, and then you go Saturday and Sunday, and then Monday's July 3rd, and then Tuesday's July 4th, well, now you're 5 days into your 10-day window before you realize that anything has happened, and now you've got to go track your processor down and try to figure out how to respond to this chargeback. So it really just boils back down to the relationship, right? You want a relationship with someone that can give you the inside peek at what is going on in the electronic payments part of your business, especially on the chargeback side of things. But you want somebody constantly reviewing those things anyway.
Mhm.
There are auxiliary services beyond just credit card processing, right? So if you have a credit card processing relationship, sometimes people will say, "Oh, we have a new program. I've identified this program as a probably be a good fit for you, and it might save you a bunch of money." That happens from us, that happens to us from time to time. So, really, just the more eyes that you can get on the credit card processing side in general, as well as the better process that someone can help you create for fighting things like chargeback disputes and retrievals, is going to set your business up for success in the long run. And unfortunately, what you get with Square and Stripe is basically a one-page internet form that accepts you or declines you to be able to take payments through their service immediately. So, like I said, it's a good introductory product because it's fast, but you just don't get all of that information that you need, that education that really puts you in the place to keep your business as safe as possible. Because their value proposition is speed.
Mhm.
Our value proposition is really sustainability. Being able to use electronic payments effectively in your business, without it being a huge risk to you.
Right. Wow, that's great, great stuff. Now let me ask you this, Bailey. Is it, because there's also now a lot of people doing, if we wanna call it web commerce, right?
Mhm.
They may be using Shopify, they may be using what we call WooCommerce, BigCommerce as part of their website. Are
Mhm.
you guys able to support them processing those payments? Because I don't know if, like, sometimes it's like, "Oh, well, you just automatically use, this payment processor or that," or is that something you're able to help with? Because I can tell you in the business that I'm in, and working with, now people are doing what we call live selling on their websites. I could see where you could be a real resource, not only because maybe you can help these people bring their, transactional costs down, but they also have that support for, like we're talking, because maybe somebody buys something from them and then does the chargeback. And I think, to your point as well, is right. Some of this is making a it's that whole process thing, like, hey, here's a good contract for you to provide, or statements to put on your invoices when you send it to people. So, because it might say like, hey, no refunds, and you're signing this and you're agreeing to this. So then that probably helps prevent some of these chargebacks.
Yeah,
I would think.
absolutely. That's a wonderful question. So we personally we work with Wix a lot. We work with WooCommerce a lot. We work with a lot of the existing website platforms, which is exciting to me because really when I started in my industry, I was very young. My beard was even patchier than it is right now. I didn't know a lot about credit card processing. I didn't know a lot about business in general, and that was the perception of me as a salesperson, as this very young guy that's new to his industry. And what I was able to kind of use to differentiate myself is the fact that I really, began to dig into the technology. So what you're seeing now is Stripe is integrated with a lot of these platforms. Um, and it's really because Stripe is the easiest to integrate from a development perspective, not like your website development perspective, but when the people are actually building the Wix platform, when the
Hmm.
people are actually building WooCommerce, when the people are actually building um, platforms like Shopify, the easiest thing to integrate is Stripe for
Hmm.
their developers, right? And it allows their merchants to take payments really quickly with a really easy integration to plug things in, right? We're able to do a lot of those things as well. Fortunately for us, we have been, strategically in our industry for years using payment gateways, which is basically just a tool that connects our payment service to your website. Fortunately for us, our API documentation is advanced in a way that we kind of get to skip out on using the gateway now. Saves a little bit of a monthly fee and additional transaction fee. So we can actually directly integrate with a lot of those websites now. But the biggest thing about those websites where we see the most value there, like I'll give you another example here. So um, I have several clients that have been turned down or their processing shut off kind of overnight by Stripe.
Mm.
So that underwriting process is something that they don't really do.
Right.
They ask you a couple of questions when you're signing up, but that underwriting process is not very dense, right? So at face value, you may get turned down for Stripe, or at face value, Stripe may come to you one day and say, "We're shutting down your processing account." That doesn't happen with us very much. I have a client that sells basically CO2 powered non-lethal weapons. So they shoot like BBs and things like
Hmm.
that. They're for competitions and all of these different things. Well, at face value, Stripe turned them down for processing altogether because it looks like they sell guns on their website, right?
Oh,
Now,
wow.
we were able to get them approved and improve the words that were on their website in a way that allowed them to be much less at risk with taking electronic payments, right?
Mm.
So the WooCommerce, e-commerce, just anything that people are selling online, we do support those people well. Um, and really taking that critical look at what is the whole process of how someone buys from you and how can we make it as protected for you as possible is a conversation that we have, kind of during that training period where mostly we're showing people how to use a terminal or we're showing you how to send an invoice. Well, on your website, you don't really need that information. We're basically showing you how to do a report, and then we're auditing the terms and conditions and shipping policies and all those things of your website to make sure that they're set up in a way that keeps you safe. Because
Oh,
even better than me helping you win a chargeback is me negating you getting a chargeback altogether. That's
right.
really the we try to kill it while there's a chance to really look and make changes to the website. And when we have that opportunity to kind of throw our hat in the ring as far as what some of those words should be and should not be, things go really well. And sometimes, sometimes you're in an industry where it's just difficult. Sometimes you're going to be one of those really, really popular brands and you're going to do tons and tons and tons of sales and you're going to sell to everybody on all four corners of the earth. And there's going to be people that thought they were buying something else and they charge it back and you lose a charge back. But at the end of the day, I'll tell you I'll kind of sum up what I'm talking about with um some of the facts about credit card processing in general, right?
Mhm.
Credit card processing can be an expense to your business. It can cost you up to 3%, and that is a big chunk of your business to let go, right? But I'll tell you this about credit card processing. Credit card processing will extend and grow the size of the transactions that you do in your business. People will buy more from you if you give them the opportunity to use a credit card. People will buy more often from you if you allow them to use a credit card. If you allow them to put things in their cart, people will buy from you again and again and again if you give them the opportunity to use a credit card, right? If you give the opportunity for someone to pay for some sort of membership or exclusive access to your website, oh, $10 a month gets me 10% off my orders. You can sometimes double your average revenue per customer just by offering something as simple as a small monthly service that they can opt in and opt out to that makes them feel very important to you. So, credit card processing, using it, kind of summing up, using electronic payments to grow your business, I guess is kind of the topic here today.
Yep.
Giving the opportunity for people to use electronic payments in order to push their business to the next level is really what we're about. If we don't see a value in giving, extending that solution to you so that you can use it to grow your business, we will simply tell you that we are not a good fit for you. And we will tell you that, hey, if you're running one transaction every 6 months, and it's a big transaction, maybe this product may be better for you. If you're doing something very, very unique, you need a specific platform, you're providing educational content on the internet or anything like that. Like there are better platforms out there for those specific type of businesses than what we provide sometimes. And I am okay with saying that. But the relationship is really where we shine and we take care of the people that we have a good fit for, and we have very, very adaptable technology, and we run our small business just like you. That the health of your small business is absolutely indicative of the health of our small business, and that's what you want from your credit card processor. You want it to matter to you. You don't want someone that looks at credit card processing as a secondary option, maybe like someone at your bank or things like that are kind of trained just to get you to fill out the application and sell you the same machine over and over again. Um, Credit card processing and electronic payments is so important to the lifeblood of so many businesses that we couldn't imagine putting it on the back burner. And as my small piece of advice for whatever it may be worth, it's healthy for your business for you to think about it the same way as the merchant.
Wow. That's some great stuff. Um, let's talk a little bit about your podcast too, because you know, you kinda mentioned it earlier. So tell me about I was it was great being on Burn the Ship, but you also have the Soup Sandwich. So kind of tell people what those two shows are about, because what I love about what you're doing with these shows, right? It goes back to what we talked about earlier. You're building relationships, and I can tell you, folks, when me and Bailey were or talking on his podcast, he wasn't trying to sell me merchant services, right? That's one of the things I respect about him. It was truly a conversation like we're having today, where I asked him, right, hey, let's talk about this because this is a good topic for people, just even by seeing the comments and the people here, you've really brought some value to our viewers today, and appreciate that. But yeah, let's talk about your podcast. Let's talk about you a little bit more, Bailey.
Cool. Well, I'm glad I brought some value to some people in the that are viewing. Our podcast is pretty unique, right? And I'll kind of describe the experience that we had and what we saw on the internet that kind of led us to producing the podcast the way that we produce it now. Our podcast is called Burn the Ship. The goal of Burn the Ship is to connect entrepreneurs with professionals that can help you go all in on your business, right? During the pandemic, what we found was that we were still coming to the office every day, right? We had 4 salespeople and we were spending pretty much all of our time on Zoom. We were playing cornhole in the parking lot in between because we were literally the only people in our whole entire office complex that were actually coming to work. Um, and what we found was that the fact that we were never isolated made us happy. We were enjoying doing business. We were spending time together with the people that we loved, and people cling to that. You know what I mean? And so what we found was that people were kind of leaning on us. People were excited to do business with us. People were excited to get um, kind of brought into and introduced to some of the people in our network. And so we kind of built our audience for our podcast even before we really built the ins and outs and the structure of the actual podcast, because through that pandemic time, we had really developed relationships with people who needed us to make introductions for them to continue to push their business forward. And that's okay because we love to do that. It's one of the most valuable things that we feel that we do at the MP Group is try our best to bring you into the family and show you the rest of our network and how valuable they are. And so the goal of Burn the Ship being to connect entrepreneurs to professionals is that the entrepreneurs actually live behind the camera. They're the ones watching the podcast, and the professionals are the ones sitting in the room with us. What we talk about on the podcast is your story, right? Usually very relatable, of how you got into your business because people behind the camera that are watching relate to that. Then we talk about your strengths. What did you do well at the beginning of your business that allowed you to begin pushing the ball down the hill, that began for you to kind of swing some of those doors open early and see the validity of your business, right? What were those skills? On the flip side of that, what did you learn? What did you need to be good at that you didn't know you needed to be good at until you already needed to be good at it, right? People relate to that. People will relate to those skills. People will relate to the fact that they don't understand a lot of those things. And then we talk about what it's like to go all in on your business, because no matter the obstacles that you went through when you're starting up your business, no matter the skills or lack of skills that you possess when your goal was to become an entrepreneur, you still burned to the ship. You still went all in on your business, and you went through those challenges and trials and tribulations and walked the walk um, with no level of certainty. That is the most amazing thing to us, that people go all in and commit to their business with just a level of uncertainty, because the people that are nervous to go all in on their business that are watching that podcast, maybe what they need to hear is your story about how you mustered up the courage to go all in on your business and hear the things that you did to help you be successful, right? So that audience that we built of people that were building small businesses and excited about it and wanted to be in our network, um, we began to produce content for those people. We began to bring in other entrepreneurs and say, ask them those questions so that we could try to bottle up some of those skills and give it to an audience of people that we share that entrepreneurship gene with, so that's the goal of Burn the Ship. We don't talk about credit card processing at all. And I say this in jest, but it's actually true. It would actually probably be the most boring podcast in the history of all podcasts if we did talk about credit card processing at all. But really, what you're going to see if you go to Burn the Ship is somewhere about 250 or 300 episodes of different entrepreneurs in different industries answering very, very specific questions about what they do in their everyday business that helps them be successful. I'll give you an example. An early guest that I brought on was an electrician, and he said, "Oh, during the pandemic, I hired two project managers." Right, very very specific process of how he found these project managers, and a very very specific process on how he actually utilized those project managers to help him grow his business. So if you want to find people that are in your industry, find people that are parallel to your industry that are solving different things for themselves, Burn the Ship is a really really good resource for that. And that is all that we want it to be. We want it to be fuel for the guests to use to grow their business, and we want it to be a resource for the small business community to go out there and find the answer to those questions. Because what you're going to see a lot of on YouTube right now is what billionaires know that poor people don't know, or if I gave away all of my money right now, I would still make $1 million this month. And for a lot of us, it's just not realistic. We're at a point in our life where we can't risk it all. You know what I mean? I can't spend 20 hours a day working as much as I would love to. Um, that's really a place that what we want to be. We want to be a resource to those people, and we don't want to give it up, and we don't want to let people know that you're or excuse me, we want to let people know that you're not stupid because you don't have it all figured out. Because we've talked to 250 people, and not a single one of them have said, "Oh, I had it all figured out before I started my small business." So
Right.
trust me, we're just
That's the
like
truth. Still trying to figure it out, which I'm sure there's several folks here in the audience would agree.
you.
They're in that same process.
If you
And
had it
so
all
and
figured out from day one, I would love to speak with you. Actually,
right, right.
I invite you.
And what about the soup sandwich? That's an intriguing one.
So Soup Sandwich is really entertainment brand, right? During COVID, there were obviously less people going out and about and experiencing different things, and that podcast was really born just to talk about kind of our experiences in Atlanta. We love to go out, we love to meet people. We're the people at the Falcons game that are walking around all the tailgates and meeting different people and just building relationships with everybody that we see. Like that's really the nature of myself and the nature of my company, right? So Soup Sandwich was kind of born to describe and bottle up and show the rest of the world our belligerent life in Atlanta. And what it's become is a tool for us to take some of these live production skills that we've built that we've built over time and use those in a way that is entertaining for us. Like one of the most recent videos that we just did was we invited a bunch of the bartenders from some of the restaurants and bars that we go to here locally in Ackworth. And we paired them up with people that they work with in their own bar. And then we made all the bars compete against each other in different games and things like that. So that entertainment brand is really where we cut loose, where we let out who we are and where we enjoy ourselves, because that's the type of people that I mean, pretty much everybody works here is a little loud. You're not going to be at a networking group and know that we're not there for the most part. And Suit Sandwich has been a way for us to engage a different audience. It's not necessarily business related or entrepreneur related, but I like to think of it as a snapshot of some of the rewards of working so hard in your small business, because we've spent way more money doing Soup Sandwich than we have Burn the Ship. That is for sure. But at the end of the day, we've made some of the most incredible relationships that we could ever have. I mean, just last night, I was out with um so I don't even know what I'm allowed to say actually, but a couple of very very viral celebrities from Atlanta that I didn't even know were from Atlanta, right? From a basically a promoter and an agent that had connected me with some of those people. I mean, within a room of 6 people last night, I think we had somewhere around 8 million Instagram followers amongst
Wow.
those 6 people. And it's just incredible the relationships that you build in any world. And I'll say this to kind of sum up the big gist of Soup Sandwich. If I can do that, if I can go out there and build those relationships and find those people, and those people can become interested in what I started doing in like a 6x8 kitchenette in my old office, just don't stop. I think the average
Mhm.
podcast maybe goes 7 episodes,
Right.
and don't do that. Pour yourself into something. That is the number one, trait to our success in anything that we do, is that you just can't make us quit, and
Mhm.
Soup Sandwich has been that for us, and we have such a good time doing it, and we interact with a ton of local businesses from a branding perspective there, and it's just been fun, so you're looking at the guy that hopes to be your next viral TikTok sensation. And at 26-year-old, I never thought that I would be in this situation, but we're doing a good job. Something around 70,000 subscribers. I think we're floating around now, and every second of it has been a really good time. So
That's awesome. Yeah, and I love seeing some of the stuff you're doing. It's a lot, looks like a lot of fun, and yeah, so it's always too great to get to know people in your community. So, folks, if you want to learn more about Bailey, connect with them on LinkedIn or check out Burn the Ship ATL or Soup Sandwich ATL on YouTube. Hit that subscribe button, and I think too, I know there's a couple people on here. You don't just do podcast interviews that are local. You also talk to people outside of the area because he is able to do the streaming stuff. So there may be a couple people on here that you might want to reach out to Bailey, or you might want to have Bailey on your show. He's really a lot of fun to talk to, and I really appreciate you being here today. And so I hope everyone has a great 4th of July weekend. And before we get going here, though, too, I wanted to give you a chance, Bailey. Any last thoughts before we leave today?
Well, I hope that I have brought some value to the people that are listening, that have listened to me ramble. If you have any other questions, please reach out and lean to me. That Burn the Ship platform in general, I always tell people, especially guests on the show, it's your platform. It's your ability to speak the message about your small business. Please, if you're interested in telling that story, come be a part of the Burn the Ship family. We handle everything before the camera turns on, and we handle everything after the camera turns on. It's completely free, and that is absolutely wide open to any small business owner. I think you would enjoy it, and you have full access to the video files and things like that, and clips, and you can literally use whatever you want. Um, really, whether it's payments related or it's podcast related, or there's somebody that you want me to introduce you to, um, just lean on me, because there have been so many times in my small business journey that people have stuck their neck out for me and sent me a referral, or given me an opportunity to go be great in my business. And 6 years and some change in, I'm finally at a place where I can try to pay some of that value forward.
Hmm.
I have a diverse network and some really, really cool tools that we use every single day. And if I can lend or give any person that is watching right now any of those tools or experiences, I would love to. That nothing would make me happier. So, and
Awesome.
again, thank you for being here, or thank you for inviting me. I
Oh,
really,
yeah.
really do
No, this has
appreciate
been
it.
great. And we do have one last question from
Yeah.
Catherine. How many episodes of Burn the Ship are there?
I think I just released episode 208 yesterday,
Wow.
with 209 and 210 coming out today. And
Okay.
then if you look on Burn the Ship Live, I think there are 49 or 59 Burn the Ship Lives, which are the same. They're the same style of episodes. It's really just, that's a period in
Hmm.
my life where I decided I'm not editing. And it was a nice period. I would love to go back to that. But like we were talking about before, there's too many variables. And sometimes I just flat out have to fix stuff in post. I am no live streaming master. So we try not to do live as much. But something 260, something, 260
Yeah.
something, maybe.
Awesome. Awesome. And so Catherine says she knows what she'll be doing the rest of this
Hmm.
week. So
Well, I hope
that's
you
good.
enjoy it.
Yeah, yeah. And Linda Ray, we need to chat because it's been a while since you've been on the show, and I know you guys have made a lot of changes in how and what you're doing. So maybe it's time for you to come back on the Tim and Jim show. So yeah, she's like saying live is no joke. That's true,
Yeah.
but it's fun, right? You never know what's going to happen, and everything I think went smoothly today. So I'm gonna knock on wood here as we finish things up. Thanks again, Bailey. Loved having you. Look forward to seeing you out and about at some point here in the area, since we are in the same, I guess you'd say, area. I can't say
Yeah.
same zip code, but
Yeah, close.
definitely,
I can hit a
definitely.
golf ball to your zip code
There,
almost.
there you go. Yeah, maybe. Do you now you play golf? Maybe we'll play golf sometime. I need to get
I'm
back
down to
out
play
there, dude.
golf. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm, depending on the day, I shot 104 on Sunday, and then I
Okay.
shot a, 91 on Monday. So that is my golf career right there is,
You-
I
You're
don't
you're
even
about
know
my score, so that works for
I
me.
don't
I can
even know
play
how you
there.
find, how do you waver 15 strokes up and down, but, I am perfecting the least consistent game of golf that has been seen to man so far, so
Yeah. Well,
I
thanks
do enjoy
everybody
that.
for coming, and for those of you that are catching on replay, make sure to drop your questions in there, and we'll come back and see if we can get Bailey to answer those. But this has been great, Bailey. Appreciate you so much for being here today, and everyone have a safe Fourth of July weekend, and we will see you on the next episode of the Tim and Jim Show. Take care, everyone.
Absolutely.
Bye bye.
Thank you.